Imagine your doctor has a completely new piece of diagnostic equipment.
Oh, like a fancy new MRI or something?
Kind of, but instead of wrapping a cuff around your arm to measure your blood pressure, they place a sensor on you that measures the exact state of your soul.
Wow. Okay. That's quite an image.
Right. Not your cholesterol, not your heart rate, your core spiritual health in this exact millisecond. What number would pop up on that screen right now?
It's a confronting thought, honestly. I mean, we are so used to the precision of physical health metrics,
Yeah.
like we step on a scale or we get blood work done. It's all very binary, it's measurable. But the moment we cross into our internal state, our emotional or spiritual baseline, that precision just vanishes.
It's totally gone.
Right. We're suddenly navigating these completely murky waters, usually just guessing our well-being based on how stressed we feel before our morning coffee.
Which is exactly why today's deep dive is so compelling for you listening. We are looking at a stack of philosophical source material today.
And it's a really fascinating stack.
It really is. It's drawn heavily from the teachings of a figure known as Baba and lectures by David Phillipson. And this material completely rejects that murkiness.
Yeah, it doesn't do vague.
Not at all. If you've been around the spiritual block, you probably know the broad strokes of mindfulness and non-attachment. But what these sources do is, well, they provide this highly structural, almost engineering level framework for practical contentment.
That's a great way to put it. An engineering framework.
Right, because they don't treat spirituality as a retreat from the world, they treat it as an operating system, a way to navigate the most frustrating, chaotic parts of your daily life.
And for those of you listening who deal with difficult people, which is everyone,
Yeah.
this is going to completely change how you handle them.
Oh, absolutely. And it all hinges on one ultimate diagnostic metric, which they call frequency.
Right, frequency. And we should probably clarify immediately what frequency means in this context.
Yeah, because it's a buzzword.
Exactly. It gets thrown around a lot in wellness spaces, often interchangeably with, just vague good vibes.
Right? Like, oh, she has a nice frequency.
Yeah, exactly. But here, frequency is the literal operating speed of your consciousness. The core argument is that your frequency determines your entire life experience.
So it's the foundation of everything.
It really is. The absolute highest state of human existence isn't about achieving some massive goal or, reaching enlightenment in a cave somewhere.
Or finally buying that house you want.
Right. It's not about perfectly satiating all your desires. It is defined simply as contentment.
I think that distinction, the one between satiating desire and finding contentment, is just crucial.
Oh, for sure.
Because the modern default is to think, I am unhappy because I lack X, and once I acquire X, my frequency will finally rise.
Which is a trap.
A total trap. This philosophy frames desire as a hydra. You cut off one head and two more grow back.
Always.
But contentment is fundamentally different. It's a state of being where you are neither pushing reality away in disgust nor pulling it toward you in desperation. You are just resting in a high-frequency state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the foundational mechanism for achieving this relies on understanding what human beings are actually running on.
Right, the operating system.
Yeah, I mean, computers run on operating systems, right?
Right.
But humans run on concepts.
Concepts.
Yeah, the concepts you hold about the world literally construct the reality you experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if your programming is unhappy, it's not because the world is inherently awful.
It's because you're running a bad OS.
Precisely. You are running faulty concepts.
Let's explore how that actually functions in real time, because the material gives this really fascinating breakdown of this regarding the concept of service.
Oh, the service hierarchy? This
Yes.
part is so good.
It is. Because we generally hold the concept that altruism and serving others is like the highest possible spiritual peak.
Right, the ultimate good.
Yeah. But Phillipson's notes outline a very specific hierarchy that challenges that. They state that service without love is deplorable.
Wow. Deplorable.
Right. And then service with love is acceptable, which operates at a higher frequency. But love without service is divine.
It's a really provocative hierarchy. Especially, to an audience conditioned to measure their goodness by their tangible output.
Yeah, by how much they're doing.
Exactly. We measure productivity, even in charity.
Right. I think a lot of people would hear love without service is divine and interpret that as a free pass to do nothing.
Like, great, I'll just sit on the couch and be divine.
Exactly. It sounds completely counterintuitive to the idea of being an active, helpful participant in society.
It does. I mean,
Well,
it really does, until you look at the mechanics of the ego. When you are operating in service with love, there's still often a subtle dualism at play.
What do you mean by dualism there?
Like there is you, the spiritual person performing the act, and them, the person receiving your service.
Ah, I see.
It's acceptable, but the ego is still quietly keeping score. Like, look how good I am.
Yeah, patting yourself on the back.
Right. But to explain love without service, the material uses this beautiful example of a mother tending to a newborn baby in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
She isn't standing there at 3 a.m. thinking, I am performing a magnificent act of selfless service for humanity.
No, she's just exhausted.
She's exhausted, but she's moving naturally, propelled entirely by a state of love.
So the action happens, but the concept of I am serving is entirely absent.
Precisely. The goal isn't to stop helping people. The goal is to hold that high-frequency state of pure beingness so consistently that the helpful actions are just a natural byproduct.
They just happen.
They just happen, totally free of attachment. The directive here is clear seek that high-frequency state of being for absolutely no other reason than to be in it.
Okay, so if that state of high-frequency contentment is our target metric, what is the primary bug in the system?
The virus.
Yeah, what causes our frequency to crash? According to this framework, the ultimate virus in our human operating system is judgment.
Judgment, yes.
Anytime we look at reality and declare anything other than this too is perfect, our vibratory rate plummets.
And this is exactly where the philosophical theory hits the friction of everyday reality.
Oh, for sure.
Because the immediate logical pushback from anyone listening is going to be, well, if I drop all judgment and pretend everything is perfect, I just become a naive doormat.
Right. People will walk all over me.
Exactly. Like, how do I navigate a world that actually contains malicious people or dangerous situations and toxic behavior?
Which brings us to arguably the most liberating distinction in this entire philosophy, the difference between analysis and judgment.
This is a game changer.
It really is. The sources use this brilliant analogy of the thief. Let's say you become aware that an acquaintance has a history of stealing.
Okay, bad news.
Right. Analysis is looking at that objective data and concluding, you know what, it is not a good idea to let this person sleep on my couch.
Makes sense.
So you lock your doors, you set a firm boundary, you protect your space. That is analysis, and it keeps your frequency completely intact.
Right, it's just data.
Exactly. Judgment, on the other hand, is the emotional contraction where you decide you are a fundamentally bad person, you are garbage, and I hate you.
Yes. And we really need to look at the psychological mechanics of why that distinction matters so much.
Break that down for us.
Well, analysis keeps you physically and socially safe. But judgment only destroys you.
It's self-inflicted.
Totally. The material compares judgment to a rock getting shoved into a garden hose.
Oh, I love this visual.
Right. The water, which is the flow of high-frequency energy, is entirely blocked by this rock of judgment.
It highlights the sheer futility of resentment.
It really does.
Because we have this subconscious belief that if we hold on to our anger tightly enough, it somehow punishes the person who wronged us.
Like they can feel us being mad at them?
Exactly. But the thief isn't choking on the rock in your hose.
No, they are probably at home sleeping perfectly well.
Yeah. You are the only one suffering from the blockage.
It completely flips the script on forgiveness. I mean, we usually think of forgiveness as a moral favor we grant to the offender.
They were giving them a gift.
Right. But in this operating system, dropping judgment is a purely selfless act of spiritual hygiene.
Spiritual hygiene. I like that.
Yeah. You don't drop the resentment because the offender deserves it. You drop it because you refuse to let your own consciousness contract.
You refuse to lower your frequency.
Exactly. You protect your hose.
So you can lock your door or fire the toxic employee or end the bad relationship, all through clear, cold analysis.
Yes.
And you can do it without carrying the heavy radioactive luggage of hating them.
Radioactive luggage, that's exactly what it is.
But let's push this further, because it's one thing to analyze a thief from a distance.
Yeah.
It's entirely different when you are forced into daily interaction with someone who actively antagonizes you.
The inescapable coworker.
Right. When the friction is inescapable, how do you maintain a high frequency?
This is where we have to fundamentally rewrite our concept of what the world is actually for.
Oh, okay.
The sources offer a metaphor that perfectly addresses this. They say Earth is a gym, not a spa.
Earth is a gym, not a spa. It's such a sharp critique of the modern wellness industry, isn't it?
Oh, completely.
We are constantly sold the idea that achieving spiritual peace means eliminating all friction.
Yeah, we think the goal of life is to lie on a massage table with cucumber slices over our eyes, completely undisturbed forever.
Right. We treat struggle as an error in the system.
Exactly. But if Earth is a gym, then friction is the entire point.
You need the friction.
Yes.
Yeah.
You cannot increase your physical strength without lifting heavy things. So in this framework, difficult people are not anomalies ruining your peaceful life.
They're part of the workout.
They are the heavy weights specifically provided to help you build your forgiveness muscles.
Wow.
If every weight in the gym were made of styrofoam, you would never grow.
So when someone pushes your buttons, the universe isn't punishing you. It's actively spotting you while you lift.
That is exactly it. And to take that even further, there's this incredible movie villain metaphor in the material.
Oh, I loved this part.
It's so good. Think about the narrative structure of any great film. Without a formidable antagonist, there is no conflict.
It's a boring movie.
Right. And without conflict, the hero never discovers what they are truly capable of. The villain is essential for the hero's evolution.
I found this concept so striking. Like, when someone in your life is acting awful toward you, instead of getting sucked into the emotional drama, you can step back into that analytical observer role.
Yeah, you pull back.
You look at them and think, wow, this person is giving an absolute masterclass performance as the antagonist in the movie of my life right now.
They are nailing the role.
They really are. The notes actually include a quote from Baba that says, "Don't hate me when I show up as an enemy. I have paid a large price for this for you."
I have paid a large price for this for you.
It's an incredibly sophisticated way to view human interaction.
It really shifts the perspective.
It implies that on some deeper, interconnected level, the people who trigger your deepest insecurities and anger are actually performing a sacrificial role.
Like they're doing you a favor.
Yeah, they are taking on the ugly job of being the catalyst for your spiritual expansion.
Okay, but what if you refuse to lift the weight?
Like, what if you choose to stay in judgment and you just want to hate the villain? What is the actual consequence of that choice?
Well, that brings us directly to the mechanics of karma.
Okay, karma.
The sources provide a very visceral analogy for how karma operates here. Imagine you are driving a car down a long, dry dirt road.
Got it.
As you drive, your tires are kicking up this massive, thick cloud of dust behind you.
Okay.
That dust represents karma. It's the energetic consequences of friction and interaction in the world.
So as long as you keep driving, the dust just stays behind you in the rearview mirror?
Yes. If you keep your frequency high, if you maintain that state of non-judgmental analysis, the car keeps moving and the dust never lands on you.
What happens if someone cuts you off or insults you and you immediately drop into judgment?
You slam on the emotional brakes.
Oh.
You stop the car to engage in the grievance.
And the second you stop, that entire cloud of dust you've been kicking up just washes completely over the car.
You are instantly covered in it. Getting bogged down in resentment is exactly what allows the karma to settle on you.
So the action itself wasn't the trap.
No, stopping your forward momentum to wallow in judgment was the trap. If you just let it go and keep moving, you leave the karma behind entirely.
Okay, I understand the theory. I need to keep driving, leave the dust behind, and look at my annoying neighbor as a heavy weight in my spiritual gym.
Right, in theory, it's great.
But let's get into the practical application. Because when the moment of conflict actually strikes, like when you are in the boardroom and someone takes credit for your work, the physiological reaction is instantaneous.
Oh yeah, the blood boils.
Your heart rate spikes, the anger floods in, and your frequency crashes to zero before you can even think about garden hoses or dirt roads.
It happens so fast.
So how do you pull yourself out of a low-frequency nosedive in real time?
This is where the material transitions from philosophy to pure technique. They introduce what is called the A-B process.
The A-B process.
Yeah, it is a precise mechanism for shifting your internal state.
Break down the mechanics of this for us. What exactly are A and B?
Well, part A represents the mind and its mental concepts. This includes every single tool in your spiritual toolkit.
Like meditating.
Exactly. It's repeating a mantra, focusing on your breath, reciting scripture, or consciously forcing that analytical thought like, this difficult person is a manifestation of the universe helping me grow.
Okay, so part A is the active cognitive work.
Yes. Part B, however, is the actual state of sacred beingness. It is the visceral, lived experience of freedom, peace, and high frequency.
So part A is the thought, and part B is the feeling.
Exactly.
And there's an inherent paradox here that the notes highlight perfectly. The mind, with its constant analyzing, judging, and storytelling, is the very track that causes our suffering.
Right.
But it is also the only key we have to escape the trap. You have to use the mind to fix the mind.
Which is a precarious balance, because if you rely too heavily on the mind, you just create new traps.
Right. And to explain how to navigate that, the material uses this great analogy of a track race.
The starting blocks.
Yes. When a sprinter is preparing for a 100-meter dash, they lock their feet into the starting blocks. Those blocks are part A.
They give you the leverage.
Exactly. They provide the necessary resistance to launch the runner forward. You absolutely need the blocks to get a powerful start, but the fundamental rule of the race is that you have to leave the blocks behind.
And that is the critical friction point where so many people get stuck.
How so?
Well, they spend years crouched in the starting blocks. They are relentlessly repeating their mantras, rigidly applying their mental reframes, but they never actually push off and run the race.
They just stay in the blocks.
Yeah, they never transition from doing the practice to simply being in the state.
So the mechanics of the AB process require you to use the mental concept just long enough to generate the momentum.
Right.
You repeat the mantra to interrupt the anger, but the second you feel that subtle shift, the moment the frequency starts to rise and part B becomes accessible, you have to consciously quiet the mind.
You drop the mantra.
You let go of the blocks and you just experience the peace.
And this leads us to what is undoubtedly the most profound, layered metaphor in the entire stack of notes. The thorn bush.
Oh, the thorn bush. It perfectly encapsulates the ultimate trajectory of this entire philosophy.
It really does.
Walk us through the mechanics of the thorn bush.
Okay, so the material paints the picture of a man who accidentally falls into a dense, vicious thorn bush.
Ouch.
Right. His skin is covered in painful thorns, which represent our worldly attachments. Our anxieties about money, our need for validation, our resentments, our judgments.
So he is trapped in a low-frequency state of agony.
Completely trapped. To get out, he searches around and he finds the biggest, sharpest thorn he can reach.
Okay.
This giant thorn represents a high spiritual concept, like the concept of God or the pursuit of enlightenment.
Oh, so it represents part A, the mental tool.
Exactly. And he uses that one massive thorn as a tool. He meticulously uses it to dig out and remove every single one of the smaller, painful thorns embedded in his skin.
He uses the concept of a higher power to pick away his worldly anxieties. And it's a lifesaver. The tool actively relieves his suffering.
It relieves his suffering entirely. But here is the absolute genius of the metaphor. Once he has successfully extracted all the worldly thorns, and he is finally standing there, completely free from the pain, what does he do with that biggest thorn he used as a tool?
He has to throw it away, too.
He throws it away, because if he holds on to it, he is still clutching a thorn.
Wow.
To reach ultimate freedom, to truly inhabit the pure contentment of Part B, you eventually have to let go of even your most cherished mental concepts of spirituality.
So the concept of God, the concept of frequency, the concept of karma.
They're all just magnificent tools designed to remove your worldly attachments. But eventually, the concepts must give way to the pure, unmediated experience of the present moment. You have to drop the final thorn.
Which is incredibly challenging for the ego, especially the spiritual ego.
Oh, the spiritual ego hates this.
Right. We want to build an entire identity around holding that big thorn. We want to show everyone our starting blocks.
Look how good I am at meditating.
Exactly. But the ultimate instruction is to use the mind to free yourself from the mind and then drop it entirely.
Yeah.
It's like flying a plane through a storm. When visibility is zero and you are getting tossed around by difficult people and chaotic events, you rely heavily on your instruments.
Your Part A concepts.
Right, you use them to correct your course. But the moment you break through the clouds and see the clear sky, you stop staring at the dashboard. You just fly.
And looking down, you realize all the turbulence that felt so personal and targeted was just weather.
It was just the gym providing resistance.
Exactly.
So bringing all of these mechanics back to you, listening right now, we started with a mission to find a practical framework for the messiness of daily life. And the through line here is undeniably cohesive.
It really holds together.
It all comes back to treating your frequency not as an abstract vibe, but as your core operating system.
And we've seen how crucial it is to swap the destructive contraction of judgment for the cold, safe boundary of analysis.
Keeping the rock out of your own hose.
Exactly. And we've reframed the difficult antagonists in our lives as necessary weights in the gym of Earth.
They're kicking up karma that we can choose to leave entirely in the dust just by keeping our momentum forward.
And we've mapped out the AB process, leveraging our mental concepts as starting blocks to launch us into true beingness.
Using the big thorn of spiritual philosophy to extract our painful attachments and then having the courage to throw that final thorn away.
It's a deeply empowering diagnostic tool. It removed the victimhood from the equation entirely.
It really does. Your contentment is no longer dependent on the world behaving perfectly. It's dependent purely on your willingness to manage your own frequency.
Which leaves us with a final provocative exercise to test this out. It's drawn from a brilliant story in these teachings about Alexander the Great.
Oh, set the scene for us.
Okay, so Alexander the Great, the most powerful man in the world at the time, hears of an ancient sage living deep in the woods.
Okay.
This sage owns absolutely nothing, yet is reputed to be perfectly content. Now, Alexander's ego can't handle this,
Of course not.
so he sends a heavily armed messenger to demand the sage present himself at the palace. The messenger is instructed that if the sage refuses, he is to cut off the sage's head on the spot.
The ultimate worldly threat.
The ultimate threat. The messenger arrives, draws his sword, and delivers the ultimatum. And the sage, resting entirely in that high-frequency state of Part B, completely unattached to even his own physical survival, simply looks up at the messenger and says, "Take it."
Take it.
Sorry,
No resistance, no judgment, just analysis of the moment.
Total non-attachment.
Mhm.
The sage was carrying zero heavy luggage, and the material offers a specific psychological technique to help us inch closer to that radical state of freedom.
How do we do it?
It asks us to confront our deepest anxieties and our worst-case scenarios and simply ask a two-word question, and then what?
And then what?
Yes. Trace the fear all the way to its absolute logical conclusion. For you listening, what is the one piece of heavy luggage you are dragging around today?
Is it a fear of losing your job?
Right. Or a deep resentment toward a family member, a burning desire for a specific outcome.
If you took that fear and asked yourself, and then what? And followed the timeline all the way down to the bottom of the worst case scenario.
Could you find a way to make peace with that baseline reality today? Could you look at the worst the world has to offer, drop your resistance, and say, take it?
Because the moment you drop the resistance to the fear, the rock is removed from the hose.
The frequency instantly rises.
Which brings us full circle to that diagnostic monitor we imagined at the start. You don't need a machine to measure your soul. You just need to check your frequency in this exact moment, locate the friction, and ask yourself, what thorn am I still clutching, and am I finally ready to throw it away?